You know, for the longest time, we thought we had the economy all figured out. But what if the game has completely changed? That's what we're talking about today. A totally new playbook for our modern world. So, if you think you know how it all works, well, you might want to stick around.
Think about it. For over 100 years, economics had this one simple recipe for how we make stuff. But does that really work anymore? I mean, we live in a world of AI, same-day delivery, and products that are literally made for you. What if that old rulebook is, well, just completely out of date?
Right, so the old recipe was super simple. You had capital, think machines and factories, and you had labor, that's us, people. Mix them together and you get stuff. But today's reality? Whoa. It's this wild mix of AI being able to customize pretty much anything, and your feedback hitting the company instantly. The old model? Yeah, it's just not built for that.
Okay, so let's dig into that classic economic recipe first. Look, it was a fantastic tool for its time, no doubt. But in the world we live in now, it's starting to feel, well, a little behind the time.
This is it, the absolute bedrock of old-school economics. It's called the Cobb-Douglas function. And really, all it says is that your output, let's call it Q, is just a mix of your capital, K, and your labor, L. For the whole industrial age, this simple, kind of beautiful formula was the way we understood how everything got made.
But here's the thing. The researcher behind our source material, Mario Arturo Ruiz Estrada, he basically says these old models are, and I'm quoting here, increasingly insufficient to explain the complexity of modern economic systems. And that makes sense, right? In our world of automation and everything being digital, just counting machines and people, it just doesn't give you the full picture anymore.
All right, so if the old model is busted, what do we replace it with? Let's get into it. It's time to check out the new blueprint for today's economy.
Okay, here it is. It's called the Multidimensional Production Function, or MPF for short. And what it does is it stops seeing production as just two ingredients. Instead, it's this dynamic living system of all these interacting parts. And instead of just capital and labor, we have this whole new cast of characters: AI, robotics, design, energy, customer input, natural resources, and infrastructure. A lot more going on.
And listen, this isn't just about throwing more letters into the equation. The source material is really clear about this. The MPF shows this huge shift toward what it calls intelligent, autonomous, and highly customized production systems. So we're talking about a totally different way of even thinking about how we create value.
So that's a lot of new pieces on the board. How do they all work together? Let's break down the key players in this new economic story one by one.
First up, AI. Now, in this new model, AI isn't just another tool, like a hammer or even a powerful computer. Nope. It's the central nervous system, the brain of the whole operation. It's constantly making real-time adjustments and smart decisions. It's basically the conductor of this entire economic orchestra. And of course, that conductor needs its orchestra. AI doesn't work alone. It directs the rest of the players. So you've got R for robotics. That's the muscle doing the physical work. D is for design personalization, which is how we get all that incredible customization. E is for the energy systems that power everything. N is for the natural resources, the raw materials. And finally, I is the infrastructure holding it all together. But honestly, here's what might be the most game-changing piece of this whole thing. C for customer input. See, in the old way of thinking, you, the customer, were at the very end of the line. You just bought the finished thing. But the MPF brings you inside the process. Your feedback becomes what they call an endogenous factor, which is just a fancy way of saying it's baked right into how stuff gets made from the start. It's like the old model is a restaurant with a set menu. The MPF is like having a personal chef asking, "So, how do you want this?" and making it on the spot just for you.
All right. I know what you're probably screaming at your screen right now. We've got all these new letters. What happened to L? Where is the labor in all of this? Yeah, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
I mean, seriously, if the classic formula was all about capital and labor, where do we, the people, fit into this new high-tech equation? Did we just get automated out of a job? Did we get erased from the picture?
Well, here's the really brilliant part of this theory. Labor isn't gone, not at all. It's just been reconfigured. It's been broken down and spread out across this new system. So the thinking part of labor, the cognitive stuff, that's now encoded into the AI. The physical heavy lifting, that's been transferred to robotics. Our creative spark, that's captured in the design phase. And even our participation as consumers, that's now a form of labor represented by customer input.
So the big takeaway here is that labor isn't just one thing anymore. It's not a single ingredient you just pour into the mix. It's now this hybrid system that combines human ideas, machine power, and AI smarts. The very definition of what labor even means has been completely transformed.
Okay, so we've got this new kind of complicated model. But so what? Why is this important? Let's pull back and look at the big picture here, because this is a really fundamental shift. This chart really puts it all into perspective. Look at the difference. The old model, just 2 inputs, capital and labor. The MPF, a whole 7-factor system. In the old world, technology was this thing that happened to the economy. Now, with AI, it's the very thing that runs it. And maybe the biggest change is demand. It went from being an afterthought to being a core part of the process. The old system was always trying to find a balance and equilibrium. This new system, it thrives on constant change and what the model calls dynamic imbalance.
So this was the old math. See how clean that is? Simple, elegant even. It's the formula of the industrial age. Pretty straightforward, right? And now, here's the new math. Yeah, it looks a lot more complicated, and that's exactly the point. Our economy is more complicated. This formula actually tries to capture all that new sophistication. Output is now this big, messy, beautiful function of all those new factors we talked about, all interacting with each other in real time.
So why should you care about any of this? Because if you feel like the world is more complex, more dynamic, and maybe a little more chaotic than it used to be, you're not wrong. The old maps just don't describe the territory anymore. The MPF gives us a much more realistic guide for understanding the crazy, constantly changing economy we're all living in. It helps it all make a little more sense.
And I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. This new model says that your feedback, your choices, your preferences, they're not just something a company looks at later. They are a direct input into the production line itself. So think about this. If you're actively helping to design and shape the products you buy, are you still just a customer? Or are you, in a way, becoming a coworker?